This episode is brought to you by 180 Markets, where it is our goal to bring every individual, fund manager, family office, or any qualified investor access to Australian Stock Exchange capital raises. If you are ever interested in how to access ASX capital raises in a super simple way, 180 Markets is for you. The sign-up process is easy. You just upload your ID, proof of your investor status, and your current brokerage account information. The settlement of shares goes right into your existing account, and you can access our very next capital raise. If you're interested in free, easy access to thousands of ASX capital raises, including placements, IPOs, reverse takeovers, and more, check out 180markets.com.au. Hello, everybody. Welcome again. Another edition, 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Investors, friends, we always say the trend is your friend. And I'm not just talking about the share prices. I'm also talking about economic trends, what is happening in the world. And two of the biggest trends out there certainly are health and wellness and also sustainability. And I'm really excited because today we have with us a company, Angel Seafood. And Angel absolutely represents both trends about being in the health and wellness category and sustainability. And on top of that, it's also cash flow positive and in growth mode. Anyway, enough with me. To talk more about that, we have Simba Matute from Angel Seafood with us. Simba, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Simba, please tell us in a couple of minutes, just your story. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Angel started in 2010, started off as a hobby farm for Zach Holman, our managing director, and his wife. And coming into the industry as a new entrant at that time, he quickly picked up that there were some small changes he could make to do things a little bit differently, and also identified an opportunity to acquire more farms and consolidate them. The oyster farming industry in South Australia is around 35 to 40 years now on average, and a lot of the farmers who got in there are starting to look at how to exit. It remains a cottage farm. It remains a cottage industry with a lot of small farmers who've been doing really well, but a lot of them were thinking of a way, how do they get out of the industry? So this created an opportunity to consolidate and bring in modern farming practices that would help us increase productivity and do well in the market. We also identified pretty early on that there's a preference for organic and sustainable food. So Angel was one of the first oyster farmers to go and get that organic and sustainable certification. And until today, we are one of the two only farmers that actually have both certifications in oyster farming.
Fantastic. Maybe just to back up for people for a second, what makes South Australia such a great place for your business?
Yeah, South Australia is a great location, particularly Coffin Bay. We are on the Eyre Peninsula. It's a very dry region, so there isn't a lot of rainfall and runoff into the estuaries and the like. So our oysters are actually fed by the natural upwellings that come from the Great Australian Bight and coming from the Antarctica, etc. And that cold water is really good for the flesh of the oysters. This puts us in a bit of a different position from some of the oyster growing regions where there's lots of rainfall. The ecosystems are very different. So Coffin Bay oysters will have a very distinct flavor. And Coffin Bay is well known around the world as an oyster brand. So some of the top restaurants in the in UAE, places like Dubai, and even in Asia, you'll see Coffin Bay on the menu.
So it's fair to say, from Angel's perspective, your location is certainly a barrier to entry compared to others.
Yeah, it is. I think the number of hectares that are hectares of oyster leases that are out there, they are quoted. There isn't new oyster leases that are being added onto the market. And we know that the holdings that we have are very, very good water. Such good water is hard to come by. So yeah, that creates some barriers of entry for competitors.
Right. And so you have the natural, I suppose, the God-given talents, if you will, but then also what Angel and Zach have really done is to try to bring modern techniques to the business and to really, go with the best practices mantra, if you will. Can you just talk about what makes your operations unique, and especially your multi-base strategy, if you will, but also please keep it at a reasonably high level for our investors, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So one of the key game changers that we have that has been driving Angel's growth is the multi-base strategy. By multi-bay, we mean that we are operating out of 3 bays. There's Cow, which is Franklin Harbor. That is where we do the grow out of oysters. And then there's Coffin Bay, where we do the finishing. By finishing, I mean fattening the oysters for sale. We identified that the different bays have different attributes that we can use to our advantage in the oyster life cycle and improve our productivity. We also have operations in Haslam. Until this year, Haslam was more our overflow facility, but we are starting to utilize that facility as well. So weaving those 3 bays together with the experience that is forming part of our IP, we can achieve, very good productivity. We can achieve many different flavors of our oyster because every bay will contribute something different to the life of the oyster.
So, but one of the major growth opportunities is the export market. As obviously, Australia is a small place compared to the rest of the world. Can you just touch about the export opportunities?
Yeah, so we are really excited about export opportunities. We know that we've got a fantastic product, oysters, that is really, really enjoyed by, more than 1 billion people up north in Asia, and they really, really love the product. Australia being in the southern hemisphere, our oysters are in prime condition during the winter, which is when the northern hemisphere is going through its summer, and that's a period of peak demand. It's one of the things that we are continuing to work on, and it remains a very big opportunity. Australian food in general is seen as very, very high quality, and when you add Coffin Bay and organic certification to it, you've got a very special product.
Absolutely. And so now we understand the productivity side, but as we know, it's great if you don't have a product and if you can't move it, it means nothing. Can you just talk about your sales strategy is becoming quite differentiated because, and I suppose it's maybe the natural evolution of a business where you're going after now the larger customers from formerly a very fragmented industry. Can you just talk about that, going after the larger distribution channels?
Yes. Thanks for that question, Greg. So I think when you look at the history of oyster trading, why they're called Coffin Bay oysters, as opposed to being branded by any farm, is none of the farmers have previously had the volumes to actually create a brand and guarantee continuity in supply. We are changing that with the scale that we have managed to achieve. We can now produce up to 10 million oysters a year with the assets that we have. This allows us to stay in the market and to start building, to have that consistency of supply, consistency of quality, and that it becomes a platform for creation of a brand. But most importantly, it opens up the retail sector as well. So when you look at the major retailers, they have been hesitant to have oysters in the farm because the quality is greatly variable if it's coming from many different farmers on a daily basis. So having us being able to supply the volumes that they need week in, week out, gives us that platform to capture that opportunity. And we've been pleasantly surprised through this COVID time that retail has actually picked up, and we are well resourced to capture that market.
Right. And is that a trend that we should in your mind, see more of where, obviously, we don't want to disclose exact names, but where it's a Kohl's or Woolworths or somebody like that is going to pick you up? Should we see more of that, you think, in the future?
Yeah, so definitely this will continue to be another pillar of our sales strategy. The restaurants and the exports are still important. The good thing is these sectors take different products from our perspective. So we've got by having the retail, it creates a market for our smaller products, whilst we have the bigger product, which is our plates and standards, being targeted for the export and the restaurants where that product is preferred.
Absolutely. And also, I think that, switching over maybe a bit to the, for people to understand your financial statements, you've really transformed the company now from the state of what I call like the classic negative cash flow, everything going out the door, build it and they will come. Now you're on that state, the last year or so, or 2 years of cash flow positive plus growth plus on the right trend. Can you just talk about a little bit about the cash flow of the business and how, maybe also could be used for further sales channels expansion?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Greg. I think we have come to that point where our break-even quantity was around 5-6 million oysters. We have scaled the business up a little bit more. We are a growing business, so we are. Whilst we like the fact that we are cash flow positive, we want our investors to look at us and know that we are always ready to grow, and we have to continue plowing cash into the business, particularly in our stock position. So when you look at our cash flow, whilst we are cash flow positive, our costs might look a little bit higher than what people would like, but that is because oysters have an 18-month life cycle, and our cost base today is actually representing what our income is going to be in 18 months time. So that is one of the things. When you're a growing business, you are on an upward trajectory, your costs seem to pick up. So it's actually good that even despite that being the case, we are still cash flow positive, but we are still focused on growth.
Well, absolutely. And I must say, as an investor, certainly considering that the interest rates are zero in the bank, when you can take $1 of cash flow and invest it at a much higher return of capital, that certainly makes us shareholders happy. So there's also becoming some more attention, or a lot more attention, I suppose, on the oyster industry. Can you just discuss that a little bit?
Yes, I think we've seen more investor awareness of the industry with, recent news of, Harvest Road investing in Western Australia. We've got some groups that are coming up, East 33 in New South Wales. So those are Sydney rocks. These are all different species of oysters, but we like the fact that more bigger companies are coming into the market, and we'll be able to. We see the trend of investors becoming more knowledgeable about oysters in general and seeing the opportunity as a fantastic trend, and that will also shine a bit of light on Angel.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I alluded to in the beginning, Simba, is being on trend is absolutely critical. Simba, we only have a couple minutes left to wrap up with. Can you just a couple of things? What should investors, in your mind, think of for success for Angel over the next 12 months? What would be your opinion of success?
Yeah, I think Angel is obviously a company that has shown extraordinary resilience through COVID. We've been listed for only 2 years, and we've achieved a tremendous amount and delivered on all our promises. We have achieved profitability. We've achieved cash flow positive. Angel is not desires more growth, so we are not going to be stand still, but we are going to continue growing. Growth is going to come from 3 main things. We're going to scale up our operation a little bit more, and we're looking at initiatives to increase our net income per oyster sold. So that is more marketing, branding, tapping into new markets. And up to now, we haven't taken that much advantage of our organic credentials. We are intending to use that a little bit more going forward. And yes, we are a company that is highly focused on innovation and making sure that our low-cost production and the multi-base strategy is delivering. For value for our shareholders.
Fantastic. Simba, thank you very much for your time. Please do keep us up Again, it's an incredible story. It feels like we are getting the benefits now of the hard work that maybe has been done since 2012. Anyway, please stay in touch. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching another presentation by 180 Markets. Don't forget, if you want access to thousands of ASX capital raises, head on over to 180markets.com.au, sign up, and get on board for our very next capital raise. Thanks for watching.